Hey guys, welcome to week 4 of the Trinity Football League Fantasy Forecast. Hope everyone had a great week and I'd like to congratulate our winners from last week and condolences to our losers. Hopefully we'll have a better week this week, right? Okay. A couple of big things are coming up in our league, things that we need to be very aware of. Number one, this will be our first of 7 straight weeks of interdivision play. We're stepping outside our divisions for the first time this week. Be playing teams from the other divisions. We'll be doing that for the next 7 weeks. Also for the next 7 weeks, there will be other things to consider. Bye weeks are starting this week. Be sure to check your rosters. Be sure you have a viable lineup. Be sure you get all those bye week players out of your lineup that are normally there and replace them with your bench players. This is starting a string of 7 weeks that's going to test your rosters, test your resolve as far as picking up those players off the waiver wire. That's going to be weekly fill-ins to take care of some of those players that are on bye and to help you win your matchups each week. This is where the rubber meets the road, so to speak, or it separates the man from the boys. Choose your cliche, but either way, stay active. And what I love to see is a lot of activity on the waiver wire, and we had it this week. I think 8 different teams so far have picked up players off the waiver wire, which is just excellent. That's great participation. Like to have all 12 people picking up players off the waiver wire, but having 8 this week is just great, and that just shows just how much, how competitive this league is, and how competitive each and every team is in trying to get to the playoffs. And that's the name of the game. Win your matchups and get to the playoffs. And the only way you can do that is to stay active. Make those trades. We had one trade this week between the Jokers and the Intimidators that I feel like helped both teams. The Intimidators needed a stud wide receiver, and they got that in Calvin Johnson. And the Jokers, they needed players. They got a good running back in Peyton Hillis. Could be this year's Jamal Charles. You never know. You know, last year I picked up Jamal Charles off the waiver wire and was able to ride him into the playoffs. So you never know when that one person's going to be given the chance to perform, and they outperform the starter and become the star themselves. So everybody, keep your eyes open for those players that you feel like that can help your team each week. Like to direct your attention to right above me here in the League Manager's Notes section. Craig's made a list of some of the quick and interesting facts about the TFL standings. I thought was very interesting, especially within our division, mine and Craig's division, Division 1. We have some interesting things there going on, like the 2 teams that are in the lead right now, me and the Wallaroos, actually have less points than the 2 teams that are 1 and 2, which are Craig and Mike. And it's just one of those things where the most important thing is to win each week, survive and move on, survive and move on. That's what it's all about. So the Wallaroos and I have been lucky a couple of times, and that's what it takes a lot of times. There is skill involved in fantasy football, but there's also an inordinate amount of luck. So I'll take the luck right now, the way my team's scoring. So we'll try to do the best we can. My record last week was 5-1. Good week for me. 11-7 overall for the season. The only matchup that I missed was that I missed the Avengers and the Intimidators. I thought that the Intimidators would pull this one out, but the Avengers had the high score not only for the week but also for our fantasy season to date of 139 points. And they get our top dog award this week, just barely nosing out Craig's 137 points. Craig had a wonderful week too, so congratulations to him, and for a wonderful week also. But the Avengers get our top dog award this week. As far as the other awards go, The Tough Break Award goes to Mike Sirianni and the Italian Stallions for the second week in a row. That's not a good award to get, especially 2 times in a row. Score close to 100 points both weeks and get the loss both times. That's a tough pill to swallow. I've swallowed it several times myself, and I'd much rather be on the side of the Lucky Dog Award winner, which just so happened to be me this week. I only scored 71 points. It had a lucky matchup in that I was matched up against the Wallaroos, who only scored 63. So that puts he and I tied for the lead in the league as far as record with 2-1. So I consider myself very lucky this past week to have pulled out that victory. The Donkey Award goes to the Jokers this week. Jokers had a tough week, I think only scoring 48 points, which makes for a rough week, sitting there having to watch your scoreboard and not seeing any points being put up. But they made the trade this week with the Intimidators, and hopefully that will improve their situation. The Jokers needed players, and basically they got 2 good players for Calvin Johnson. So I feel like that improved their team going forward, of course, and it helped the Intimidators also. So I think it's a win-win trade for both those guys. So let's go into week number 4, the matchups. We got some good matchups coming up this week. So let's get started with those right now, and let's see. Let's start with the War Dogs and the Jokers. War Dogs, like I said before, had a wonderful week last week, 137 points. And they're going up against the Jokers, who only put up 48 last week. But as you know, last week's last week, and that doesn't mean that that's what you're going to get this week. So you never know from week to week who's going to have that hot hand and score those touchdowns and get those points for your team. The War Dogs, pretty much at full strength. They don't have Dwayne Bowe this week or Percy Harvin, but they have some pretty good fill-ins, and I think that they will get the measure of the Jokers this week. The Jokers, even though, and I did factor in the new players that they will be picking up before their matchup this week, but I still think that the War Dogs will take the measure of the Jokers this week. The next matchup is Shake and Bake versus L-Town Beatdown. Seagrove's team, Ian's team, looks to be pretty much at full strength, even though we are in the middle of buys. They look to be pretty much at full strength. Unfortunately, L-Town doesn't have a whole lot of players because Chris took over a team that we mentioned it before that just wasn't taken care of properly. And on top of it all, they're missing their #1 player, probably in Tony Romo. So it's going to be a tough week for L-Town. And I believe that Ian will take the measure of L-Town this week and take that victory. The next one is my Fairgrove Mad Dogs versus Craven Pine Soaring Condors. Father-in-law versus son-in-law this week. Those matchups have always been great in the past. This one should be no exception. I'm fairly much full strength this week. Missing Jamal Charles, but I doubt I would have started him anyway because Matt Forte is going against the Giants, and I felt like that was a pretty good matchup, so I probably would have started Forte anyway. The Condors are going to be missing Miles Austin, and also they have Andre Johnson, who is dinged up a little bit with an ankle problem, and Steven Jackson, who's also hurting with a strained groin. This one, hopefully I can pull this one out this week. I got to score more points than I did last week, but I believe Maurice Jones-Drew will have a pretty good week. Hopefully he'll break out. He's been holding my team back, but hopefully he and Larry Fitzgerald can get off the schneid and I can pull out a win this week. I'm hoping so anyway. So I believe that I can beat the Condors. The next one is the Sophia Slawcats versus the Westover Wallaroos. Paul has a very good team, very balanced team. It seems like everybody he starts scores points for him. I don't think this will be any different this week. He is at full strength. He has nobody on bye this week, so he can start whoever he wants. The Wallaroos missing a couple of pieces. They put John Kuhn into the lineup, but I believe that the Slawcats will pull this one out over the Wallaroos. So I'm picking the Slawcats over the Wallaroos in this matchup. The next one, Mikey's Italian Stallions, the hard luck loser the last 2 weeks. And it could be 3. They're going against the LA Avengers. And our only undefeated team left. And Mikey also has 3 guys that are on bye this week that are usually in the starting lineup. Brett Favre, Adrian Peterson, and Mike Williams of Tampa Bay. But the good news is that Mikey drafted well and worked the waiver wire well, and it's got 3 very good substitutes for these guys. So I don't look for the drop-off to be significant. In fact, I almost picked the upset here because I really think that Hasselbeck going against the Rams is going to be a good matchup. I mean, Brett Favre hasn't done much so far anyway. You got Joseph Adai going against the Jaguars, and then you've got Mark Clayton going against Seattle. Those are very good fill-ins for the 3 that he's got out, and I'm almost ready to pick the upset. But I'm going to stick with the strong team here, and I can't go against the Avengers because, hey, they haven't lost yet, so I'll have to go with them for this week, but I would be a bit surprised if the Stallions pull this one out. The last matchup is the Ligers, T-ville Ligers, Dustin's team versus the Intimidators. The Ligers have been strong so far this year. They've had a good start. They're 2-1, tied for the division lead, and doing very well. This is a strong team that's going to be in it till the very end, going against the Intimidators. And it's hard to pick against the Intimidators when you're looking at Aaron Rodgers, Chris Johnson, Frank Gore as your quarterback running back combo, and now adding Calvin Johnson. I know Calvin hasn't scored much, but if he gets off the schneid and starts scoring points, I mean, it's basically all over. The Intimidators are just going to be so strong. But and it's going to be hard. I'm hard pressed to bet against the Intimidators this week, even though I like the Ligers players. I think that the Intimidators are just a little bit stronger, and we'll get the measure of the Ligers this week. Okay, that's it for the matchups this week. I hope you enjoyed that. Sorry if I didn't pick your team to win this week. Maybe it's a blessing because I'm not always right. But anyway, I hope y'all enjoyed it. Good luck to everyone. Looking forward to discussing all these picks on the message board, and I appreciate you listening. Have a good weekend.